If you're a health or a life coach who's struggling to get your coaching business to grow, then today's episode of the show is going to be so helpful for you. We're going to explore some key things that might be stopping your coaching business growth and how to fix the problems in those areas. Let's dive in. Hi there, welcome to the Wholehearted Business Show. I'm Laura. I help health and life coaches get more clients, grow their businesses, and live the best lives while they do it. And today on the show, we're talking all about why is your coaching business not growing? What is going on? What are the problems and how do we fix them? Now, most coaches will struggle with this at some point, whether you are a coach who is new and you're just really struggling to get out the gates, or you're a coach who is further on in your journey and you're really struggling to have that growth that you want, whether you've hit an income ceiling, whether you are just not attracting any more clients, whatever it is. We're going to explore some key things in my experience as someone who mentors and supports health and life coaches in my business. We're going to look at some of the key things that can be problems, that can be areas of difficulty, and we're going to explore how we can fix each and every one of them. The first problem that you might be experiencing if you are not seeing your coaching business grow is that you are simply not reaching enough people. This was my problem in my coaching business for a long time. Now, this is not the be all and end all, but if you are not reaching new people, you will not get the clients, you will not make the sales, you will not make the income, you will be stuck. Simple as that, basically. If your marketing is not effective enough, if you are just not getting in front of enough people, if enough people don't know that you exist, your coaching business is not going to grow and you're going to feel really stuck. It also doesn't mean that your coaching business has to be reaching like thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. What really matters is how many people you need to reach based on your business model and what your business model looks like in terms of the things that you're selling, the price points, and your conversion rates and things like that. That is all something that I cover in my free training, the Profitable Business Model training. So do go and check that out if you want to understand that a bit more. There's also a completely free business plan template in there that you can use as well that will help you kind of brainstorm and look at this part of your business. So how do we fix this problem of not reaching enough people? I think the first thing that we have to do is get really honest about what is working and what is not working in our marketing. I am someone who does not necessarily like to look at the numbers and do the data and actually look at that, but we have to be able to look at the data. We have to be able to look at what is working and what is not working and actually look at the cold hard facts. And ultimately, you might be enjoying a form of marketing and it might be doing its thing, but ultimately it's just not reaching enough people. Now, I always say to give something at least 12 weeks, a strategy 12 weeks, and do it consistently before you kind of bin it off. But you really need to actually look at the numbers of what's working. Like, is this enough people? And if it's not this marketing thing that I'm doing that is working, do I need to optimize it somehow? Do I need to switch up and try something completely different? Like, look at that, because it might be that you are actually getting enough numbers, but there's something else happening further down the line that's not working. But it might simply be a numbers issue. And again, this is something I've experienced in my business is, ultimately we need to get the numbers of people who actually know that we exist, and we need to have those numbers of people make sense for our business model as well. So that's a really key thing to look at. So the fix for that would be to get really honest about what is working and what is not working in your marketing and make adjustments so that you can see that you are attracting the right number of people into your business. Another issue that can cause a lack of growth is that your niche and message just simply isn't resonating for people. This is a problem I see quite often in my work as someone who supports health and life coaches to grow their businesses. When our niche and message just isn't landing for people, when it's just a little bit woolly, when it's just a little bit vanilla, when it's just a bit, it's just not kind of connecting for people, you're really going to struggle to attract people in as clients. Poor messaging ultimately means that your business becomes forgettable and people just won't remember it. It just won't stand out. It also means that potential clients won't fully understand the value of your work and how you can help them. So addressing this problem can really, really help with growth in terms of getting new clients and in turn attracting more income as well. Niche and message is obviously quite a big topic, and I think even just starting by reviewing your niche and message, if you're not feeling good about it, maybe doing some more market research and really figuring out what that looks like. I've done an episode of the show all on market research, which I will link to in the description so you can find out a bit more about that. But one of the things that I'm seeing work at the moment, and that is quite helpful for a lot of the people that I work with, is to kind of layer in an extra element of messaging on top of what you've already got that kind of really connects in with people's self-identity, often in a positive way. So let's say that you are a coach who works with men who are struggling with their energy levels. A way that you could switch this around and actually improve this as a niche and make it a little bit more interesting, make it connect with people a little bit more. And obviously the kind of key messages under this would be very specific and different, but a way that you could layer something in, for example, would be to, let's say that this is actually for men in corporate jobs, men in the corporate world. You could talk about how this is specifically for men in that kind of area, and again bring in examples of how men who are in corporate jobs might be impacted in terms of their energy levels and how they can improve that particular situation. Another example is that you could make your work around adventurous men who are struggling with their energy levels. So men who want to be going out hiking mountains on a weekend, but who are too knackered to do so. That really taps into those men who have that self-identity around being adventurous. And again, what this does is it stops your brand and your message from being forgettable. It kind of calls in very specifically a type of person, and it just adds something a little bit different to your whole kind of setup. So that's just one really simple thing that you could play around with, is adding in that extra layer of messaging that helps you stand out and actually brings a little bit more sharpness, I think, to your niche and message. So something to explore there if you're struggling with growth. Another issue that could be causing a lack of growth is that your offers are not well put together or structured. So what we sometimes see is that coaches, their offers are just not communicated very well. So either we're not really explaining like who this is for in terms of the things that they might be struggling for, the kind of things that people are looking for when they are wanting to fix something that they're experiencing. We're not really communicating that. We're not really communicating the value of what it is that we're offering in terms of like the actual outcomes that people are going to achieve. We're not using enough social proof or testimonials to kind of back that up. There's often things around this that can really let our offers down. There's also just how our offers are put together if we have more than one offer, which many of us will have. We need to have enough differentiation between the different things that we are selling so that they make sense. People need to know what is for them. Any confusion, anytime someone feels a bit confused, a bit unsure, like that is a total turn off, and they're not going to want to work with you unless you're really doing a lot of stuff on the connection side and they really, really like who you are. Sometimes that can make up for a bit of a lack of like structure and a bit of a lack of clarity around them. But ultimately we need clearly well-defined, well-structured, well-communicated offers in our coaching business. And if we don't have those things, then that can really impact our growth. Also, from another point of view, is if your offers don't make sense in terms of your business model again, then that can actually mean that, maybe you are having enough people coming in, maybe your niche message is making sense, but actually the offers that you've got and the way that they're priced means that your income just isn't really doing anything. It's not really getting any better. So that's kind of, again, can sit in amongst some of these other issues as well. So how do we fix a problem with our offers? We look at our offers and make sure that we are happy that they are really communicating the value of what it is that we offer as a coach. Now, this is why coaching is tricky, because it's not tangible often, but we need to make it as tangible as possible. And talking about the outcomes, backing up those outcomes with social proof and testimonials if we can. And again, if you're a new coach, you might struggle with that, but if you can backing up what we're saying, that we can get people the outcomes with that, that's really going to help. Looking if you have multiple offers, that they are differentiated in terms of, someone's not getting confused about what offer's right for them. It's very clear in terms of what they're going to get and what they're going to experience, and the outcome, again, is so important. And again, that we're using language that people resonate with and that they understand. A big thing around offers and any kind of like messaging, kind of copyright and stuff, is that we're using language that people just don't understand what the fuck we're talking about, basically. And again, we need to make sure that we are using language that our right fit people understand. And sometimes, often what you'll hear business coaches say is that it should be language that anyone out on the street could understand. And I disagree with that. It needs to be language that your people understand, but they do need to understand it. So if you're using all these kind of random terms or these random words that ultimately is just like word salad, like no one's going to want to work with you because it's just word salad and they don't understand what you're talking about. So those key things can be really helpful when it comes to your offers and just fixing that issue that could be causing a lack of growth. Another big issue is that you're just not actively selling. So what a lot of coaches do is they do the passive selling really, really well. They do like the PSs on the emails, they do like the PSs on Instagram, they kind of casually talk about we're going to discovery call and stuff like that. And that's fine and that has a place. But if you're not actively selling, like if you don't have a sales plan, if you are not intentionally showing up to sell stuff you are going to struggle. Growth is just not going to happen if you are not intentional about sales. Yes, you might make some sales by accident, you might get some clients by accident, but when you're really intentional about your sales, that's when you're going to see the growth. So if you have no intentionality around sales, that is a problem that we need to fix. So how do we fix this issue? If we are not being intentional with sales, there's 3 key things that you need in place in your sales. This is what I've been teaching recently with my clients. The first one is an always on passive sales. This is your PSs and emails. This is your automated email funnel. This is kind of like the day-to-day selling that you do. Then you want to have some kind of personalized one-to-one connection-based sales. This is where you are actually following up with people in person. You are reaching out to people who've expressed an interest. This is like that very individualized selling on a one-to-one basis. That is very, very effective. Yes, it can feel a little bit uncomfortable, but there's ways that we can do it that feel wonderful. But making those invitations to people on a one-to-one basis is so important in your sales process. And finally, we have an on and off sales process as well. And that might look where we use a little bit of urgency and scarcity to generate a few more sales. Again, there's ways that we can do that will feel aligned and not icky and awful. And there's different ways that we can put those together that are not quite a full all sing and all dance and launch thing. There's ways that we can utilize it. So an always on passive sales system working, kind of individual selling and actually having conversations and making invitations to people, and an on and off sales system as well. Those are the 3 things that you're going to want to have. If you want to learn more about how to put those into your business, do get in touch, because that's something I do with my one-to-one clients as well as inside Wholehearted Business. So do get in touch, because you need that system if you are struggling with growth and you're not intentional about sales. A big issue if you're not seeing growth and you are someone who has been coaching for a while is that perhaps you've just hit a capacity ceiling. So this can look like you just have run out of time to market. So often what happens is you get an influx of clients, then that kind of impacts the amount of time that you have to market, and you kind of end up with a bit of a feast and famine kind of cycle where your clients finish, you run out of money, you do some marketing, kind of screwy marketing, and then you get some more clients, and it's kind of not very sustainable, and that will impact your growth. It might also just mean that you don't have enough time to work actually on your business development. So I think a lot of people kind of hit a ceiling when they are ready to scale and they're ready to create something that's a bit more scalable, but they just don't have the capacity to actually develop that and actually work on the business because they're so tied up and working on the inner work and the delivery work with their clients, the marketing stuff, all of that kind of day-to-day stuff. They just don't have the time. So a big problem with growth is that you just hit a capacity ceiling. So how do we fix this if we've hit a capacity ceiling? I think a big thing that you want to kind of bear in mind is that you want to work smarter, not harder. What a lot of people are doing is that they are seeing 80% of their results from 20% of their work. So one really simple thing you could do is actually get really honest about the things that you're doing and what results of that work is actually being created. I did a little experiment a couple of years ago where I tracked my time for a couple of weeks, everything that I was working on, and actually looked at am I actually using my time wisely? I think that was the first thing that I did, and it was so helpful to see kind of where the time sucks were. So actually looking at how you're spending your time, that's the first thing, can be really good. And we want to work harder, not smarter. Again, working with a coach or a mentor who can actually say, put your time more into these things, that can be really helpful in terms of getting out of that income ceiling. But also things like outsourcing. So if you don't work with a VA, maybe it's time to hire a VA and actually, give away some of the tasks that you're working on a day-to-day basis to free up some more time. It's looking at things like that. Is there anywhere else you can access a bit more time resource from? Those things are going to be really, really helpful. And again, there needs to be an element of strategy in there, because it's usually not enough just to free up the time. That's not usually sustainable when you want to grow. Usually there needs to be an element of strategic use of your time in terms of scaling. There's also the potential for increasing your prices. So if you are booked out with one-to-one clients and you've just hit your capacity, then increasing your income is a good way to see some income growth without having to do anything else. It's just by raising your prices slightly. So those are some ways that you could fix that issue if you are experiencing a capacity ceiling. And then finally, an issue that you might be having is that you are simply not energetically ready to handle the next level of growth. So again, this is a bit of a theme that I've kind of covered on the last few episodes of the show around this, but if you are not energetically ready to manage whatever the next kind of level of growth looks like, then you will feel stuck. You will kind of get stuck in the same place. Now, again, this is something that I'm experiencing right now. that I've been experiencing the last couple of years in terms of like wanting to break through an income ceiling that I've been kind of stuck at. And this is something I'm, very much in the process of walking my talk around this at the moment. So if you are not energetically ready to handle what is about to come next, and what I mean by that is, like, can your nervous system manage being responsible? And I think this is the key thing, again, because we are highly sensitive, heart-centered coaches. We are want to get the best for people that I work with, and actually being able to energetically hold that level of giving a shit about people when it's a lot more people, like that is something that I need to energetically work up to, and my nervous system needs to feel comfortable in being able to do that. So there's an element of that is part of this equation. There's also like a kind of physical element to it as well. Like, is your business set up to handle the next level of growth? Like, do you have the financial processes in place? Do you have the admin processes in place? Like, kind of imagine in as much detail as possible what would happen if you hit your next kind of income or growth goal. Like, what would that actually look like in your business? Like, on a day-to-day management, delivery, practical level, what would that look like? Because if you can get really comfortable with that, and like, what problems would that throw up? Like, what problems would that create for you? Because it will create problems. Trust me, it will create problems, but you will solve them. And sometimes just thinking through, right, okay, so when I hit this level of income and I get this number of clients, this is something that I'm going to have to handle, and actually thinking about it in advance and then planning out how you're going to handle it. That's a great way to raise your energetic capacity for the next level. So really looking at that, and again, there's the fix right there, is actually doing that work, is actually really running through in minute detail what the next level would actually look like, and the problems that you might have to face when you get there, and how you would address them, what all of this stuff would look like. That's a great way to do it, is to kind of prep your subconscious mind and raise your energetic capacity for the next level. Another tool that you can use to kind of work on this and to fix this particular issue is to journal, is to do the mindset work, is to explore all of this kind of stuff. Again, if you get triggered, like being curious about what is triggering you rather than kind of just falling into like a hole, all of this kind of stuff can really help you raise your energetic level to be able to expand and accept the next level of growth in your coaching business. So I hope that's been helpful. Just to recap a little bit, if your coaching business is not growing, whether you are a new coach who is just not seeing growth at all, or a coach who is more experienced who has just hit a bit of a kind of ceiling and is just not kind of getting any further, these are the things that you might want to look at in your business. I mean, yes, I could probably go on and on. There's probably several other things I could add to this, but these, I think, are the key areas to look at if you are feeling stuck and not seeing growth. Again, I've also given you some of the ideas, some ways to fix those things too. A great tool of mine to explore is my free profitable business model training. That kind of gets into the nitty-gritty foundational stuff around how your business is actually structured and set up. And then again, if you want to get some support, I offer one-to-one mentoring. I don't have a lot of slots available left for this now. We're kind of getting into May and June. June's the last point that I would take any people on, so I can manage time over summer and things. So if you are interested in working with someone one-to-one who can help you through some of these issues, if you are feeling stuck, then please do get in touch. I would absolutely love to support you in your coaching business as well. Okay guys, that's it from me. As always, I'd love to know if you've enjoyed this episode of the show. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe and leave me a comment and let me know what has been helpful about this episode. If you are listening on the podcast, please do share it with others that you think might find it useful. If you want feedback, please pop me a DM on Instagram. I'm at wholeheartedlylaura, and I'll be back next week. Take care guys, bye.